Speak. I'm here with Rabbi David Mivasair. He's been a progressive Zionist for much of his life, but recently he's had a change in perspective, and he's supportive of the Palestinian cause. Rabbi David, it's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you. I really appreciate being able to be here and talk with the people.
Rabbi, I wanted to ask you about your journey. You know, what you've told me before is that you were a Zionist for much of your life.
Yep.
And then something shifted in your thinking. So what went through your head, and how did you get to that realization that, okay, I want to support the Palestinian people in their fight for peace and justice?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the question.
A hard question.
Yeah, I just want to say, I don't think it's such a clear dichotomy between one and the other. And for me, when you say I was a progressive Zionist or a liberal Zionist, what that means is always I've been aware of the plight of the Palestinian people and their oppression and their suffering and what Israel has done to them. And what that means for me is from the very beginning, when I was a teenager and started to get interested and involved with Israel, part of it for me was help the Palestinians, me participate as a Jewish person in Israel in a way that makes things better for the Palestinians. I saw that from the very beginning. I've always wanted to do something about that, but more recently I've realized it's like incompatible. It's incongruous. You can't have a Jewish state with equality, freedom, safety, justice for Palestinians.
So was there a specific event that led to that kind of thinking, or was it like over time, you sort of little cognitive shifts that took place that suddenly, boom, your mind changed?
In my experience, I first went to Israel as a 19-year-old American Jew, young man, trying to find my place in the world, coming to a place where I felt like, whoa, like Israel, that's like my people's country. So the very first week, maybe the second or third day, I was in Jerusalem. I was walking down a street that's called Jaffa Street. It goes from the Jaffa Gate to Jaffa, and there's nice old stone shops and stuff. And there was a little boy, maybe 6 or 7-year-old boy, bleeding from his hand. He must have cut his hand on a broken bottle, bleeding and crying, and there was 2 policemen there. So I went to the boy and I said, come with me. And I took him to the policeman, and I said to the policeman in Hebrew, help this boy. And they said to me, what are you talking about? He's an Arab, just get rid of him. So that was my first experience. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, this is not okay. And I had experience after experience after experience like that. For me, I would say 30 or 40 years before I could break through the cognitive dissonance between wanting Israel to be a good place and the way the Jews are running that country be a good thing. I want to believe that. And the facts right before my eyes are the opposite. And in my brain, I couldn't put the two together. And you asked me, was there a specific incident? So seriously, when the Mavi Marmara, which was a ship from Turkey, sailed with 6 other ships carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza, seriously, things like school notebooks and pencils and wheelchairs and crutches. And the Israelis attacked them in international waters and murdered a number of people. But when I saw that, I just thought I can't play this game anymore. I just have to rip off, in a way, the mask or the cover that I've been wearing. And in a sense, having a place at the table didn't serve the goals that I need to serve, and I can't self-censor. And the very next morning, seriously, that happened at night where I was, and the very next morning I went out to a huge demonstration in Vancouver, where I was living, I dress the way I'm dressing now, so it's like kind of a, look like a rabbi, not just a guy with a t-shirt and shorts. And I was interviewed like now, and I really spoke like clear. And that actually really ended my being tolerated in those circles of things like the Jewish Federation and saja. They never really like kicked me out until then. But for me, it's very liberating.
Yes. So how has the mainstream Jewish community responded to you?
Yeah, so that's actually really sad. When you say mainstream Jewish community, you're talking about, I'll say, like the world of synagogues and the major Jewish organizations. Each city in Canada has a thing called the Jewish Federation. They're all linked by an umbrella group called saja, which stands for the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. I am persona non grata, meaning basically like excommunicated.
How do you feel about that?
It's very hurtful. That's my community. If I want to pray with a group of Jews in a synagogue and hear the Torah read and sing the songs that we sing in our worship, I don't have a place where I can go and be comfortable with that, and it's very sad. And more than my own personal experiences, it's very sad for me that the dominant institutions of Jewish people are so firmly entrenched in this point of view. I feel like they're in such a kind of defensive position, and they won't let go of it, and they're just kind of digging themselves in more and more and more. And actually, I think more and more and more Jewish people like me are realizing this is wrong and leaving it. And I hear from them.
Okay.
I talked at McMaster University last night with an imam, with
Ayman Tahir.
Right? Sheikh Ayman Tahir. There were 2 Jewish students there. They're both like 18-year-old Jewish people who grew up in Toronto. They came to me and they just told me exactly this. They don't feel comfortable going to the place where they grew up. They feel very isolated. They're very kind of, what can we do Jewishly? And...
So what did you tell them? What's your advice to someone in that situation?
2 things. One, join us. I'm part of an organization called Independent Jewish Voices, which is really focused on justice and equality for Palestinians, and we as Jews being part of that struggle. So Independent Jewish Voices. It's not a religious organization. That's not what we do. But I said to there are 2 young women, I said, come to my house for dinner on Shabbat, we can be together. And that will grow.